The next morning, a kick woke her before sunrise. "Get up, lazy girl." The day Lamisi's world ended, the sky didn't even bother to cry. It stayed wide and blue and bright, as if nothing had happened. As if two people weren't lying beneath fresh mounds of red earth on the edge of Tamale. As if a 12-year-old girl wasn't standing barefoot in the dust, her heart broken into 1,000 pieces she didn't know how to put back together. Those two mounds of earth were her parents. Someone whispered, "Be strong, my child." Lamisi didn't know what that meant anymore. She only knew that the two people who called her name with love were gone, and the world kept moving like it didn't notice. After the funeral, relatives appeared like clouds before a storm and disappeared just as fast. They brought food. They brought whispers. "She's too young. Who will take her? Life is too hard these days." Lamisi listened from corners, feeling like an old bag nobody wanted to carry. Then Auntie Belinda arrived. She wore shiny sandals and hugged Lamisi the way you hug a stranger, quickly, without warmth. "You will stay with me," she said, smiling with her mouth but not her eyes. "You will be fine." Lamisi believed her. She shouldn't have. The bus ride to Techiman felt like being swallowed. Lamisi pressed her face against the window and watched Tamale disappear. The red roads, the market women, the minarets she had known her whole life. All of it fading away like a dream she couldn't hold on to. Auntie Belinda's house had tall iron gates and shiny tiled floors. It looked like a place where good things happened. But that first night, Auntie Belinda handed Lamisi cold leftover food and pointed to the kitchen floor. "That is where you sleep." Lamisi lay down on the hard floor, listening to the drip of a leaking tap. She pressed her face into her arm so nobody would hear her cry. She cried until there was nothing left. The next morning, a kick woke her before sunrise. "Get up, lazy girl." And so began Lamisi's new life, if you could call it a life. She woke before the sun. She cooked, swept, scrubbed, fetched water, and washed dishes until her small hands cracked and bled. Auntie Belinda's children, Yor and Essie, went to school in clean uniforms while Lamisi stayed behind, scrubbing their plates. Every morning, she watched them walk out the gate, bags bouncing on their backs, laughing about nothing. One morning, she gathered every bit of courage she had, the kind of courage that feels like standing at the edge of something high. "Auntie," she said softly, "may I go to school too?" Auntie Belinda stared at her like she had said something ridiculous. "School?" she laughed. "Who will do the housework?" Lamisi's courage quietly broke apart. She never asked again. Then came the beatings. First, small ones, a slap for spilling water, a shove for being too slow. Then worse, a cane across her back, a stick against her legs, and words, cruel, cutting words that left deeper marks than any bruise. "You are useless. You are nothing. I should have left you in the north to suffer." Lamisi stopped looking in mirrors. She started believing those words were true. She shrank herself smaller and smaller, trying to take up less space in a house that had never wanted her. The woman next door was named Madame Afia, and she had gentle eyes that noticed things. She noticed Lamisi's thin arms. She noticed how the girl flinched at loud sounds, the way a dog does when it has been hit too many times. She noticed the bruises. One afternoon, Lamisi collapsed while carrying a heavy bucket of water. Madame Afia ran to her. "Child," she whispered, looking at the dark marks on Lamisi's skin. "Who did this to you?" Lamisi opened her mouth and said nothing. She had forgotten how to ask for help. But Madame Afia's eyes said, "I see you. And for the first time in a long time, Lamisi felt like a person again. The breaking point came on a Sunday. Yor broke the TV remote. Auntie Belinda blamed Lamisi. She beat her until Lamisi couldn't stand, until the room spun and the floor felt like the safest place in the world. As she lay there, something quiet and strong shifted inside her chest. If I stay, I will die. That night, Lamisi ran, barefoot, hungry, shaking. She ran down the red dust road with no plan, no map, and no one waiting for her. Her feet bled, her lungs burned. The darkness around her was thick and full of unknown sounds. Finally, her legs gave out and she fell. She woke up in a clean room that smelled like soap. A woman sat beside her with a face as calm as still water. "My name is Mrs. Mensah," she said softly. "You are safe now." Something cracked open inside Lamisi. She cried the way she had needed to cry for years, deep, shaking sobs that felt like they came from the very bottom of her soul. She cried for her mother, for her father, for the kitchen floor, for the school she never got to attend, for every cruel word she had been made to swallow. Mrs. Mensah didn't tell her to stop. She didn't say, "Be strong." She just held Lamisi's hand like it mattered. It was the kindest thing anyone had done for her in years. Social workers came. Auntie Belinda lied. But bruises tell stories no one can silence. Lamisi was taken to live with Mrs. Mensah, who gave her a real bed, warm food, and something even more precious, a chance to go back to school. It was hard. She was far behind. Words blurred on the page. She felt embarrassed sitting with younger students. But she thought about the kitchen floor. She thought about being told she was nothing. And she worked like her life depended on it, because once it had. Years passed and Lamisi grew. Not just taller, stronger in places you can't see. She became a top student. She won awards. She earned a scholarship to study social work in Accra. On graduation day, Mrs. Mensah wept openly in the crowd. Lamisi walked across that stage thinking of red dust, of barefoot nights, of a cruel blue sky that once felt like a punishment. Years later, she returned to Techiman. She built a shelter for children in danger and painted the name above the gate in bright red letters, "The Red Dust Hope Home." One afternoon, Auntie Belinda appeared at that gate, older now, smaller, something uncertain in her eyes. Lamisi looked at her for a long, quiet moment. "I forgive you," she said, "but I will spend my life making sure no child suffers what I suffered." She turned and walked back inside. That evening, Lamisi stood in the yard and looked up. The sky was blue, wide, bright, and endless. This time, it felt like a promise instead of a punishment. She had survived the red dust road. And the road, it turned out, had been leading her home all along.